Hey guys, it's Juni here, and welcome to the Overwatch League Preview Show Week 2. Now, we have a lot to talk about this week, so make sure you like and subscribe, and let's get right into the games. Starting off on Friday, we have the Paris Eternal versus the Vancouver Titans in the battle for the worst team in the league already. The Titans have already lost both their games, but they did take a map off both Toronto and Florida, so at least that's something. Paris are making their debut this week, and they've gone down the budget route this season, picking up contenders players in Khan, Dan, and Naga, who joined Onigod from Dallas, Neptuna from Charge, and Elevate from Justice, although he never played a game for them. Predicting this game is super hard without seeing Paris play, and I think it's going to be a horrible game to watch. But to make it better, we could get some free price sticks from the Titans. So I'm going to predict Paris taking it in a 3-2. Next up, we have the LA Gladiators versus the London Spitfire. And I was expecting to be sitting here praising the Gladiators' performance in week 1, but instead they're sitting on a 0-3 record, losing to both the Fuel and the Shock in week 1. Now, as we know, both these teams are very good, but I expected the Glads to beat the hit scanless Fuel, so losing knocks them down a few places for me in my power rankings. As for London, they're pretty much the British Hurricane roster from last contender season, minus Danid, plus Shax and Blase in that DPS role. And these guys could be pretty decent this season. They have a lot of pre-existing synergy to build on, but I do think the Glads will be too good for them in this game. And I predict Gladiators winning this one 3-1. Now moving on to APAC on Saturday, and what is going on in this region? Getting straight into Chengdu vs NXL, and Chengdu are just back to being Chengdu. They dropped a map to the Valiant in their first game. Didn't really look too great. I mean, doing a little trolling, who knows? But then they go back and they sweep the Dragons 3-0. Apparently Chengdu playing off meta was weird, was actually just holding them back. And Gaga looking really good in both their games, especially against Shanghai. If they can put in these performances consistently, I know it's only week 1, but they could be right up at the top of APAC. NYXL look very different from last season. They only keep Jonak and Bianca from their previous team. They bring in a lot of contenders talent. I like the look of Guangbu and Feather especially. But after the Chengdu sweep, I'm predicting them to win this one as well. And I'll give NYXL a map, but Chengdu win this 3-1. The second APAC game is Fusion vs Spark, and the Fusion have been looking so good to start off, being Seoul 3-1, which is a big result for them. They also beat Valiant 3-0 as well, which isn't really a surprise, but Chengdu did drop a map to them, so they aren't horrible, so it's good to get a 3-0. This is also a Fusion with Toby playing after not much practice, so I see that when Funny Astro, Shockwave, EQ, and Poco all can join up with the team from EU, they're going to look even better than they already are, which is a really scary sight for the rest of the league. However, I am super high on the Spark for this season. I think they have a massive skill ceiling, and I think their talent level is insane. Players like Shai, Takayaki, Liege, Mika, and Coldis are going to be great. Added to a roster with Gushway, Gosby, IDK, MCD, Architect, dude, that team's looking stacked. My hot take of the week for this one is going to be Spark winning against the Fusion 3-2. Going back over to LA now, and there are some really interesting games this week. The apparent best team in the league right now in the Houston Outlaws are taking on the Paris Eternal first. And if you told me at the start of week 1 that Houston would end up 2-0, being both the Fuel and then playing one of the best games of the season already, beating the Shock in a game 6 on Havana, I thought you were honestly insane. These guys look so good. Django and Piggy are looking absolutely inspirational on the tanks. Juby and Crimson support are playing so well, and Happy just clicks heads while whoever else is in with him, Dante, Hydration, they're looking great as well, doing really well. There's not much to say about Paris other than they're going to get rolled. Houston wins this one 3-0 easy. The Boston Uprising play their first game up against the LA Gladiators, and honestly, this could be a good game. Boston are looking much improved on paper this season. They bring in Faith, they bring in Valentine, they bring in Gable C from WGS. They add Stand 1 and IM37 as well, who will join Myeongbong is what I would expect to be their starting 6 as an all-Korean team. But they still have Punk, Fusions, and Color Hex all on their roster too, adding some depth, which is great. If the Gladiators don't look very good against London earlier on, I could see Boston putting up a really good fight here, and I think they can take the Gladiators to a map 5. But I do expect the Glads to close it out here, and I will give it to them 3-2. Day 2 finishes with hopefully a real banger of a game between the Washington Justice and the Dallas Fuel. I was really impressed with the field this week. I know they lost to Houston 3-2, but honestly, they could have easily won that game. And then they go and beat the Gladiators 3-1. It's a great start for them, especially without a hit scan player. But I am worried about that fact. Sparkle did put on a great performance on Tracer, but what other looks do they have if they get countered? And can they change it up if they need to? On the other side, the first game for the Justice is here, and their roster looks pretty scary as well. They have Decayed Fury, and they added Mag, honestly, a possible rookie of the year this season. They've also got Assassin on Hitscan to replace Tuba. The only weakness I see is their support core, but who knows? Maybe they'll be insane this season as well. Recency bias might have got to me here, but currently I'm high on the fuel, and I have them winning this one 3-1. Now, the final APAC games on Sunday hopefully will give an indicator of where the teams are in relation to each other, but it is APAC, so I'll probably just end up being 2-3-0 sweeps. But who knows? That's the beauty of the Overwatch League. No one knows what's going to happen. We start off with Spark versus NYXL, and honestly, I haven't seen either of these teams. I have no idea how either of them gonna look. This is just pure talent identification and Overwatch knowledge from myself. You know me. This might backfire on me massively, but as I said before, I do rate Spark this season, and I'm gonna predict them to win. But I'll give NYXL the Koth map just to be nice. Spark win this one 3-1. And finishing off APAC for the week, we have probably the most unpredictable game of the whole week, with the Philadelphia Fusion taking on the Chengdu Hunters. Every game with Chengdu right now is just unpredictable, and it always is. But against good teams, who knows what they're going to do? Maybe they just sweep them 3-0. Maybe they get swept 3-0. And honestly, there's no way to tell. Like, which Chengdu turns up today, who knows? What I will say is that Chengdu do look a lot better this season. I do like the fact that they're not playing the weird stuff, because they actually look good on meta comps. They 3-0 swept the Dragons. And you know what? I'm gonna give it to Chengdu. Fusion look really, really good, but I think Chengdu are gonna take them off guard in this game, and I think they're gonna take it in a map 5. Chengdu win 3-2. North America also finishes up on Sunday with 3 more games, and the first one is Houston versus London. As I've said before, Houston are looking really good so far, and honestly, I think they'll just be better than London in this game. The Houston team has to be one of the biggest turnarounds in all of Overwatch. They finished last in 2020. They literally came last in the league in the playoffs. And now they look like one of the best teams in the game this season. Massive props already to their coaches and to all their players, doing great. Hopefully they don't collapse now. I don't want to jinx them, but they're doing great. And I think London will get better as the season goes on, but I think especially early on, Houston will just be too good for them. And I'm going to say that they sweep the Spitfire 3-0 to Houston. The Boston Uprising play the Dallas Fuel next, and this is kind of more of the same logic from that game against the Gladiators. Boston are better this season, but Dallas are better again. Although, with how this season is going, Gladiators being Boston, but Dallas being Gladiators probably means that Boston will be the Fuel, complete the triangle. But I don't see that happening. I think the Fuel collapse isn't due for a few more games. Normally it takes them like 5 or 6 games. See them in June for the collapse. So for now, I think they'll still be playing well, and I have Dallas winning this game 3-1. The final game of the week is the Vancouver Titans versus the Washington Justice, and where the final game of week 1 was a banger series, with the Toronto Defiant managing to reverse sweep the Atlanta Reign in a really close game. This game is going to be more one-sided. I think the talent on the Justice would just be too strong for the Titans. I think they're going to probably just wipe the floor with them, but the Titans have been picking up random maps. They picked up a map against Florida, who are a pretty good team. So I'll give them a map here as well, probably from like a weird like escort, like a Blizzard world, maybe on a hybrid, something like that. But either way, Justice wins this. But I'll give them it in a 3-1 fashion. And that wraps up the games this week. There are still things I want to work on with this series, but I hope people are enjoying it. Make sure to like and subscribe. It helps me out a lot. I really appreciate all you guys who watch the videos. It really means a lot to me. So thank you all. Leave your comments down below with your predictions. Tell me anything you think I can improve, anything you're enjoying from the series. And I'll see you guys next week. Peace.